Hello, everybody. How are you doing? You guys ready for the first class of fall quarter at International University of the East? I hope so, because if you're not, here it is. We're starting. Uh, so today's class is scheduled for, if I look at my trusty calendar here, October 5th. That's going to be the first class of fall 2020 quarter. And the school code for this class is ENG 106. Class course title, Cross-Cultural Communication. And to let you know, this is with a Christian theme. So I'm going to use actually the Bible and Christianity to show you that it is a cross-cultural book. Okay, we have all these fancy talks now about cross-cultural things. And a lot of people have traditionally said, well, I think the Bible is only about talking about or concerned about Jewish people, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But that's not true. So with this nice new book, and Nishwan, since you buy the books, you'll probably be interested in the different chapters and how it shows that there's all kinds of different people. And to the current day, that the Bible is applicable to you, whether you're Chinese or Korean, or even bear like me, right? So that's why I got this book, and it's very interesting. So, yeah, like I said, I'm looking at the syllabus here. So just, to enlighten you, so we're going to learn that the Bible is a cross-cultural text or book that speaks to all people, like I just told you. And the role that biblical translations play in communicating to multiple cultures, not just the Jewish people of that time, of Jesus' time. Okay, and how God desires to communicate with people of every language, every culture, even Hamujan, right? And then, you'll understand, like I said, this is a repeat. The Bible is not chained or just connected to the ancient past of the Jewish world or Judaic world. And I also want you to realize in this course that God doesn't just belong to the past, but also to the present. Okay? All right. So, as I say, without further ado, we get to the material, and hopefully you will find it very enjoyable. Okay, here we go. So like I usually do, I take my face out. We don't need to stare at that all day. So here it is again, ENG 106. Cross-cultural communication. Week 1. Boy, that's pretty large print there, so I don't want anyone to say, I can't read that, right? I can read that without my glasses, right? Okay, so chapter 1, the cross-cultural Bible. Okay, stating the uniqueness of the Bible, written during a 1,500-year span. Not like, wow, wasn't it just written the year that Jesus was alive? No. Written over 40 generations. Written by more than 40 authors. So again, different people from different cultures, from every walk of life. So every walk of life means a poor man, a rich man, a carpenter, a soldier, every walk of life. Written in different places, again, different areas with different cultures. Written at different times, again, not just stuck in the old Judaic world. Written during different moods. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. The mood of people or the mood of a city or even a country is different at different times. So that is a reason why sometimes from a certain area of time, the writing is very happy and upbeat. Other times it's very, you know, depressed or without hope, maybe during a wartime. So again, a lot of differences here that I'm trying to point out. Okay, here we go. Written on 3 continents. Again, 3 continents does not mean just Israel. Written in 3 languages. Subject matter contains hundreds of controversial subjects or sensitive subjects. And the last point here, conclusion of continuity. So that means continuity means that keep on going or keep on continuing. So that point is where I said the Bible also is concerned about people up to date, not just the past, not just the Judaic time period. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. McDowell uses this list. So who's McDowell? It's right here. To correctly show that the Bible is a book that is unique above all others. His focus is on the concluding point, which states that, in spite of all the differences that could have occurred, the Bible has continuity in relation to controversial topics. He explains that a controversial topic is one over which people disagree, right? So if we use a modern situation, I'm sure the people from Taiwan want to remain Taiwan. But maybe the people from mainland China say Taiwan must be returned to China. So that would be a controversial topic. The Bible has impeccable continuity in all of the controversial topics it addresses. I'm sure impeccable is a new word for you. Impeccable is, I have to give you a good one on this one. This is not easy, but very, very positive. So it's like this. It's like, let's say you were a soldier. You were a soldier for 20 years, okay? And you did everything correct and didn't make any errors and there was no penalties and you never got in trouble, okay? So at the end of your 20 years, they can say about you, you have a impeccable military record. No scandals, no police time, no robbery, no fighting, no nothing. It's just perfect, impeccable. Okay, so continuing here with me. McDowell, right, McDowell. McDowell and others correctly believe this demonstrates that it had a single author. Okay? Talking about the Bible. Forget about the soldier now. While this is important, I have to come to a conclusion that does not include McDowell's. Oh, that's a controversy in itself. Oh, you know, that ended the first page of Rooney. So I gotta ask questions. I know how the students love questions, right? Especially Inkjin, okay? So I don't have a lot. It's not a big reading, so I don't have a lot. I hit the new share, whiteboard. Gotta get that pencil with no eraser, right? Okay. Here we go. Like I said, I hope everybody's doing good in all the heat. We've had a heat wave, so it's been tough. Okay, first question. Whom is the first to correctly show that the Bible is a unique book? Who is it? Name that person. Was it Temujin that did that? Mr. Hong? Ken, if Ken is back this quarter? See how long I can stretch this. I go. That's all I want to stretch. Okay. So that's your first question. Okay. Number 2. Okay. Only 2 questions on this first page. The Bible has continuity for what? You want me to try to stretch this? Sometimes I feel there's violent ghosts where I live, and they will do violence to me if I don't do what they say. You know, I don't know why. There has to be violence in the world. So those are your 2. I'll give you a second there or 2 to write those down. Also, have to check in with Yishuan. Yishuan, this would be page number 3 book. And by the way, I read your comment. I'm glad you enjoyed last quarter's literature book with the authors. If you do get some other books, you will find them quite entertaining. And if you get the Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn, you'll learn about a lot of the old parts of the United States in the South. Okay, I think that's enough time. Hopefully those ghosts won't come back. Let me get that eraser. Young Pil, I wonder if you're in my class this quarter. Oops, Aya. Okay, so repeating, whom is the first to correctly show that the Bible is a unique book? Maybe it's Pamela Titan. 2, the Bible has continuity. Continuity means things continue, the same pace. 4, what? So to give you an offhand example, sometimes a restaurant has a chain of a few restaurants, and usually we always go to the restaurant, people that's close to them. But if people like it, and then they say, I'm going to try the other one that's in the valley, or the one that's into Orange County, and then you expect the same taste, same quality, and then you go to the other one and you're disappointed, you can say that the chain does not have continuity, right? Each one is different. One is better than the other. Okay, so 2 is gone. All right. Go up here, go back to that new share, go back to the material. Okay. Yishuan, we're on the top of 4 now. Okay. So here we go. Most people would not consider the Bible to be a multicultural book, right? Like I stated before, oh, it's about the early Jewish people. maybe some Romans mixed in. Okay, so get ready to get enlightened. But when I look at this list, I see its multicultural aspects. People often say that the Bible is about only one people, the Jews, and their culture. While it is true that the Jewish people are often the focal point of the Bible, Jewish culture, like many others, underwent many changes during the writing of the books that comprise the Bible. Comprise means make up. As we will see, their ideas, customs, skills, arts, etc., along with their worldview and individual perspectives, changed greatly through generations. Again, when I mentioned mood earlier, things change. Written during a 1,500 year span or 1,500 year span. Is anybody in my class over 1,500 years old? No? Okay. Moses began writing the first books of the Bible around 1440 BCE, before Christ. The Apostle John wrote the final book sometime around 90 CE. This is a span of about 1,500 years. Excuse me. Over this amount of time, any population's culture will change. Internal influences like technology, language development, economic emphasis, and population growth will lead to transformation, as will the exterior influences of trade, contact with foreigners, and immigration. And this is correct on all points. I can tell you, I like to use food because people can relate to food. Okay. When I was a kid, say, 9, 10 years old, using food as an example how things change, there was no sushi in the United States. Now there's sushi places everywhere. Been that way for 20-something years or more. We had Japanese food, yes, but there was no sushi. The people who brought sushi, or actually brought the sushi chefs over here, were movie stars that had made a movie in Japan, had tried sushi in Tokyo or other places. And with their money and influence, they said, we need this in Beverly Hills, and we need this in Westwood. And they brought over the very first sushi chefs. Okay? So there you go. And as far as Chinese food, we didn't have mainland Chinese food. We didn't have hot pot, right? Or spicy dishes from Hubei. The first Chinese that came here in the 1800s were from Guangzhou, or what used to be called Canton. So all the Chinese restaurants for years and the Chinatowns were Cantonese. But now, since maybe the late 90s, places like Monterey Park and Alhambra and Rosemead are considered the new Chinatown, but they're all mainland Chinese. And some Taiwanese too. I'm not forgetting you, Wani and Yishuan. So again, trade and immigration and different things lead to new things. So I'm just using food as a example, right? And the same with Mexican food. We basically had Mexican food. I mean, there was always Mexicans here, and we had Mexican food basically from the north, Mexico City and higher. But it's been the last 15 or more years that we've gotten southern, more Mayan-style Mexican food. So things change. Imagine in a 1,500-year span. I'm just talking 20 to 25 years. Okay, written over 40 generations. Each generation has its own cultural variation. This is most readily apparent with several generations live together. Each generation has its own way of communicating, which is why parents, grandparents, and teenagers do not always understand each other. Values change within generations. What one generation believes to be important or necessary for survival or society is not necessarily valued by the next generation. Financial concerns may be the top priority with one generation. That's why they say, like my parents' time, uh, everybody was saving, and that does not seem to be the case with the young generation now. Okay? Moral values may be the priority of the next generation. So now we have a lot of young people yelling about all kinds of racism and sexism. That's the most important thing in their mind right now. And then ecological values, the priority of the generation after that. And there's a part of the generation now, who's the gal, Thunderbird, the young gal, everything is, climate warming, ecological. Don't do fracking, right? Dress, music, and literature all change from generation to generation, even though each age group does seem to influence the ones that come after. Okay, continuing. Written by more than 40 authors from every walk of life. Rich or poor, day laborer or corporate professional, workers all live in different cultures. The writers of the Bible represented various cultures based on the type of work they did. And let me make a point about that too. Again, I'm relaying cultural things that I've seen living most of my life in Los Angeles. As you know, the United States takes the most immigrants legally than any country in the world. So a lot of people, and I think in LA there's over, I don't know, I can't believe it, but someone said over, 60 or 70 languages spoken here. That's how many different people from different countries are here. And then, of course, we hear in the news, that we have a lot of illegal immigration, mostly from, what do you expect? What's close to the United States? Mexico and the countries of Central America, whether it's Guatemala and El Salvador. So that being said, when I was a kid and a young guy, we didn't admit that many people. We had a tighter immigration and we had less illegal immigration. So when people came in, they really, really wanted to be American, try to learn English, and, be accepted as American. But now, with so many legal and illegal immigration, you have giant areas like a Koreatown, Mexican neighborhoods, or even what the young Chinese are calling the new Chinatown, Alhambra, Monterey Park, El Monte, things like that. And the numbers are so large that they make a community where if you come from your country, you can stay in that community and not even really have to learn English. And that's why I've had students, a 50-year-old man. How long have you been here? A few years? No, a teacher, I've been here 30 years. And you still don't speak English? No. It's because he lived in a Mexican neighborhood where he worked and spoke Spanish and went to a Mexican store and spoke Spanish. And his neighborhood, everybody spoke Spanish. So there was really no necessity for him to learn English. And these things can happen. So that also changes the society. As we say here, various cultures based on the different type of work. So there's many. Moses was a leader of Israelites. When they left Egypt and moved around the wilderness for 40 years. Prior to that, however, he was a well-educated member of Egypt's royal family. So you see Egyptians and Israelis, or Israelites at the time, even though he was still a member of the oppressed Hebrew race. He probably suffered through racial slurs, that's bad words, and was shunned or ignored, even as a member of the royal household of Egypt. Right? So same kind of problems going on since the beginning of time. Okay. Uh, Wani, that brings me to the end of page 4. So, I have to go ask some questions here. And yeah, I might ask one more than the first initial one on the page 3. Okay. So let me get to it. Oh, didn't want to do that. Didn't want to show you I was still here, trying to hide. Okay. Grab that pencil. Try to show you myself as least as possible. Okay. Question 3. Oops. I have some space between the words. Okay. Most people would not consider the Bible to be what? So don't make sure you pay attention here. I'm saying would not, not would. It's good practice for your test. So most people would not consider the Bible to be what? Can I extend it the whole way? Oh yes, I did it. Yay. The ghost will not come back now. We move on to 4. Oops. Okay. 4. Name some of the things that will change a culture over time. Okay. Now, like I said, maybe Bernie, Bouillonbar, I know you like to put funny answers. So try to stick to what you read in the book. Okay. So I don't want to see something like, oh, teacher, name some of the things at McDonald's, in and out. That's not what I'm looking for in the answer here. Okay. Even though technically now you could say something like that, right? Like, for example, I know that Mongolia, specifically in Ulaanbaatar, does not have a McDonald's. McDonald's will not put one there because they say Ulaanbaatar does not have a high enough population. But I found out that in some other foreign countries and cities, they don't have the population Mongolia does, but they have a McDonald's. So they must be lying about something. We must find the truth. Right? Let's find what they're lying about. Because Ulaanbaatar needs a McDonald's. At least that's what Tugs Jagar said. She told me in an email. Okay, I have one more for this page, which is this one, page 4. Okay, what kind of writing is that? Okay, 5. So I've got the 2 on the first page and the 3 on the second. How did the Bible represent various cultures? Let me look about stretching here. Stretch. Okay, I did it. Okay, so let me give you a minute to write down those 3. At least write down the question. You can answer later. Okay, that should be, excuse me, enough time. So let me grab the eraser. There it is. Hello, hi, I'm the eraser. 3, most people will not consider the Bible to be what? So again, my funny guys don't put, they would not consider it to be a sports magazine. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay, 3's gone. 4, name some of the things that will change a culture over time. Again, William Barr, don't talk about it. McDonald's. 5, how did the Bible represent various cultures? It did. You remember the example that I talked about? Okay. Same friends. Set to. Okay. Let me go back. Hit that new share so you don't see my face. Yay. Okay. All right. So here at the bottom it says Royal Household. That means we have finished page 4 and we're going to move on to the top of page 5. Okay, here we go. Continuing with the Moses story. Moses killed a man and then fled Egypt, which means run away, becoming a shepherd in the wilderness. Do you guys all know what a shepherd is? It's the person that we say tend or takes care of. The word is flock, but I'll say a group of sheep, right? So that is a shepherd who takes care of sheep. And sheep say, meh, right? A goat says, bah. All right. Joshua was Moses' successor, spending much of his time in religious activity before becoming the military leader of Israel and helping to conquer the promised land. David was a shepherd who became a soldier and then king of Israel. Wow. Solomon, David's son, grew up in the royal court. Ezra and Nehemiah grew up in captivity in Babylon and Persia. So captivity means kind of like you're in jail or prison. So we're seeing all these different countries, Israel, Babylon, Persia. And at the time, Persia was considered the connection to Asia, or as they say, the Far East. Nehemiah, a cupbearer for the king of Persia, a very important and trusted position, helped rebuild the wall surrounding Jerusalem, which had been torn down when Babylon conquered the city. Jeremiah was a priest who was called by God to be a prophet when Judah was transitioning from being a free country to being conquered by Babylon. So there's history taking place here. Daniel was a part of the nobility, so that means the royal family in Jerusalem, but he was taken into captivity, again, jail, prison, by Babylon, where he became a trusted leader and served the kings of Babylon and Persia for many years. Amos was a fig picking shepherd. If you don't know what a fig is, it's a black colored fruit that hangs from a tree. I know how to say it in Korean, moaga. I know how to say it in Spanish, eagle. But the Chinese and Japanese, I don't know. China's so large, I'm sure you have figs. Japan, I don't know if you have figs. When my father was a kid, I think it was the #1 cookie made of figs. I tried it later when I was a kid, not my favorite. So again, Amos was a fig picking shepherd before he was called by God to be a prophet. Excuse me. In the New Testament, Matthew was a tax collector for the Romans, yet another group of people, and was an outcast from Jewish society. So when you're an outcast, that means you're kicked out of your society. That's why you're actually it's reversed. You're cast out, but they call you an outcast. John and Peter were fishermen from Galilee, Sea of Galilee, an area despised by many Jews. Despised means more than hate. If you despise somebody, it's more than hate. Right? Just know that. I used to be very popular when I was a young guy. If a woman really hated you, she would say, "I despise you." But I really don't. It's kind of been lost in the language shuffle. Okay, Luke was a Gentile, which means he was not a Jew. Gentile are Caucasian people. They're not Jewish. Who? Well, let me hit the. You can get the bottom of the page. Okay. Was an associate of the Apostle Paul and believed to be a doctor. So again, you've seen all these different groups, now Gentiles, and different professions, different walks of life. Paul was born in Tarsus, a city near the Mediterranean coast, but his family moved to Jerusalem so he could study under the best teacher of the day, a religious teacher and a Roman citizen. He was a member of the elite. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the drift here about the multicultural. The Bible, again, written in different places on 3 continents. The books of the Bible were composed in different places. Each one connected more to an individual writer than to an overall culture. That's important to point out. Therefore, each place speaks more to the context for the writer and the particular books he wrote. Context is what the books are about. Yet, it is important to acknowledge that place is a part of culture. And location likely affected the writer's view of the world. Moses wrote while wandering in the desert. Wandering means walking around like without a direction, just walking. And Joshua wrote in the land of Israel soon after the conquest. David was in a field herding sheep when he wrote some of the Psalms. He is silent. And in the place as the king of Israel when he wrote the others. Most of the prophets wrote in Israel or Judah, but Ezekiel and Daniel were in Babylon during the captivity. Paul wrote from many cities as he visited different churches. And many of his works were written from, like I said, jail cells. So many different cities, many different churches. So they're talking about location being a big influencer on what you write. One of the biggest indicators, indicator means something that shows something, that the Bible is cross-cultural, is that it was written on 3 continents. Here they are: Africa, Asia, and Europe. These locales also had an influence on the text or book. Moses wrote in Africa as the Israelites, and that brings me down to the bottom of page 5. Okay? So you know what that means. It's question time. So let's go back. Share. Sie Whiteboard. It's the pencil. That will bring us to question 6. Hopefully you paid attention on this one. I did mention it. Oops. Number 1 question, or actually number 6. Who was Moses' successor? Who was Moses' successor? I did mention that. That means who came after him? Okay. Next one. And for my Japanese students. C'est bon, il est bon, il est bon. Seven, what was common for the disciple? I might have some students that kind of sleep in class and say, hey, wait a minute, teacher, what disciple? Who were they? Who were the disciples? I didn't see a word like that. Okay, if you have any type of Christian background, and you know the early system, you know Jesus had his disciples. People like David, Saul. So it talks about them in the reading. So what was common for all these disciples that I mentioned? And again, my funny guys don't say, oh, I think they all drank beer and then they met Jesus and they stopped drinking beer. They only drank milk, ate yogurt. No, not at all. So there you go. Now you know the names to look for. See if you can find something common from all of them. Let me proceed to 8. I hate to tell you, but I might have 4 questions on this page because it was a good reading page. So don't be upset. I know, like I said, Inkujin, Munk, Bayar, they love questions. Not Tal so much. She loves singing. Okay. Let me mark this. Okay. All right. Here we go. Eight. The books. Oops, I put if. It should be of. Let me fix that. The books of the Bible were written where? Oh, I think those ghosts. I hear them crying in the window. Ooh, they're coming for violence. I better stretch this out. Scary. Ooh. I think I'd rather have the Chinese Guangxi than this. Okay, so the books of the Bible were written where? I can always tell, you know, if I ask a question like this in my prior classes, when a student didn't study and they'll put something like, they were written in K-Town or Long Beach or Orange County. So I don't want to see funny answers like that. Number 9, which will be the 4th and last one for page 5. That's for my 2 ladies from Taiwan. Okay. So 9 goes like this. What is one of the biggest indicators or things that shows or proves that the Bible is cross-cultural? What is one of the biggest indicators? Okay. You should be able to find that. Let me see about stretching here. Yeah, I'll put it back. This looks better. Okay, those ghosts came back again. They were not happy with what I did. And ghosts have a temper problem. They have to go to see a psychiatrist. Okay, so that wasn't me who changed that. So there you go. I'll give you a few minutes because that's 4. That's the biggest series we've had yet. And then we'll proceed. Okay? So like I said, this weekend it's going to be another heat wave. So guys, stay school the best you can. Go to the beach and go swimming. But Temujin, please wear a bathing suit. Okay, last time the no bathing suit look was not good. Okay, you can get arrested doing that. Okay. Leisok, if you're in my class again, 안녕하세요. Good to see you. You've been getting to be a better and better student, so 많이 좋아해요. Okay, you guys ready for me to get that eraser? Or would you like me to wait an hour and I'll come back and get the eraser? That'd be a long video for you guys to watch. So I'll be kind and get it right now. So again, repeating, 6, who was Moses' successor? So my Chinese students, I don't want to hear, oh, Moses, Mao Zedong, he succeeded Moses. Not correct. And then 7, what was common for the disciples? Don't say, oh, they all had a bank account with Bank of America. Nope. 8, the books of the Bible were written where? Again, not in Long Beach, not in the OC, and not in K-Town. Pick some countries. 9, what is one of the biggest indicators that the Bible is cross-cultural? Okay. So that should end that one. Go back to the reading. So again, for my Taiwanese gals, this here Moses wrote in Africa as the Israelites. That finishes page 5. So I got to move up to 6. Okay, move up to 6. Let's go. Wandered in the wilderness. At that time, Egyptian culture was well known to the people. The land of Israel is part of the Middle East, which is on the Asian continent, and its customs and traditions are in line with Asian cultures. Those who were born in Babylon or Persia, modern-day Iraq and Iran, were also influenced by Asian cultures. The Apostle Paul wrote most of his letters as he traveled in Asia Minor, part of the area now known as Turkey. Paul also wrote from Rome, part of the European continent. Each of these areas have their own specific culture, each of which was taken into account by the writers. Most of the Old Testament was meant for those living in the land of Israel or those who were Jewish. While some of the first readers had not reached the promised land and others were living in exile. Exile, again, is when you live outside of your country and cannot return. So when we have people that escape North Korea, they cannot go back because they will be shot or sent to prison. So they live what is called in exile. They cannot return to their country. Much of the New Testament was for the early church, which consisted of Jews and Gentiles in Israel, Egypt, Persia, Asia Minor, and Rome. These early churches were influenced by Greek, another culture, philosophical thought, and Roman legal theory. Since the Jewish synagogues, which is another name for a Jewish church, they don't call it a church, they call it a synagogue, were the first place the early Christians visited as they spread the message to each area, Jewish religious thought was also known in these churches. So a mix. The first readers of Paul's, where's this arrow? Okay, writings were converts, or people that converted or changed to the new religion, from Greek, Roman, or Eastern religions, and were still surrounded, by their temples and followers. These cultural issues were often addressed or spoken to in the letters to churches and individuals found in the New Testament, written at different times. Now we're going to go to the bottom of 6. During the 1500 years it took to write the Bible, Israel's culture changed many times. When Moses was drafting his first writings, Israel was populated by Bedouins. Bedouins are the Arabs that live in the desert, who had just escaped from slavery in Egypt, one of the most technology advanced societies of the time, referring to Egypt. Remember, they built the pyramids. To this day, we don't know how they did it. The Israelites had been exposed to the technology, religion, and culture of Egypt, but now they had to establish their own. By the time of Joshua, the people of Israel were learning how to be conquerors, taking over various cities, and then settling into an urban agrarian, which means farming, society. A generation that had escaped from Egypt had passed away. A new generation was developing a new culture and also incorporated some of the religious traditions of the people they conquered. Under the leadership of Saul, David, and Solomon, the people of Israel became a world power, which changed their culture and opened up more opportunities for connecting with outside influences. Israel was a hub or center point for trade in the ancient world. So when you're a center point or a hub, that means many cultures come through there, which expose it to a variety of cultures from. And that brings us to the bottom of 6, which means I have to proceed to questions. Okay, Sie weit Wort. Pencil. Okay. Here we go. So this will be question 10. Name some of the people living during the New Testament period. So basically what I want here is a list. Okay, let's see if I can stretch this out. Ooh, ooh. I want to make the ghost happy. Oh, I did it. Got a long one. No. Yeah. Okay. I guess I can include this one here. Give it a go. So here we go. I'm only going to give you 2 on this page because I wanted to only point out the most important aspects. .11 and the last question on page 6. What did the Israelites learn from merchants? What did they learn? So I'll give you a couple minutes on those. So you guys are being pretty quiet today. That's different. That's good. Got to keep your, or as they say, conserve your energy in this heat. Okay, you got those? All right. Get the eraser. 10. Name some of the people living during the New Testament period. Okay. Don't put the people that you find living in K-Town right now. Okay. The people that are mentioned in the reading. 11. What did the Israelites learn from merchants? And you can learn from merchants when you're open for trade, or you are a hub, like I said. Okay. Go back. Get the new share. Okay, as you see, we're down here, cultures from. That brings us to the end of 6, and now we should be at the top of 7. Okay, Africa and Asia. The Israelites learned about other religions, technologies, and languages, and products from the merchants who passed through their borders on their way to trade with other countries. By the time of the prophets, Israel and Judah were no longer a united power, and the people had to learn how to live as separate countries. The northern kingdom of Israel followed a pagan, which people call like a devil religion, while the southern kingdom of Judah tentatively held on to Judaism. After many years, God exiled the northern kingdoms to Assyria and the southern kingdom to Babylon. After 70 years, the Persians defeated the Babylonians and allowed the people of Israel to return to their land. Some, like Ezra and Nehemiah, returned, but many stayed in the other countries where they had built their lives. Not leaves. Leaves grow on trees. Between the writing of the Old and New Testaments, Israel was dominated by Greece and then by Rome, which had a powerful influence over thought, travel, trade, and religion. The people lived as an occupied nation. These were the conditions when Jesus appeared on the scene. Paul wrote to Jews and others who were living under the influence of Greek and Roman thought, law, and tradition. The culture of Israel at the time, the last books of the Old Testament and the New Testament books were written, was very different from the culture during the time of Moses. Okay? That brings us to the middle. We continue on downward on this page. Written during different moods. Now we're going to address the moods again. A writer's mood is not really tied or connected to his surroundings. However, it does speak to his worldview at the time and helps explain why he might have accepted or rejected certain parts of his culture. Looking at writers' moods also helps us to see the Bible as speaking to individuals, and that the writing goes beyond cultural influence and touches the heart and emotions of writer and reader. Important point for you to remember. Not all the writers were ecstatically or deliriously happy, or even in a spiritual mood as they wrote. Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet. Weeping means crying. And his prophecies against his people in Judah show signs of depression. He was depressed because of the people's wickedness. Wickedness is when they do evil things. And because he knew that they would soon be taken into captivity. David was filled with joy and praise for God. And then fell into mourning, which is sadness when people die, and weeping and wondering if God had left him. He wrote psalms of praise as a shepherd and as a king. But when society rebelled against him, he cried out to God in grief. So interesting stuff. I just flowed through that. It was so interesting. So that brings us to the bottom of 7. We're just moving right along. So you know what that means. Got to go to that whiteboard. Yeah. Temujin loves it. More questions, please. And so, all right. Brings me to question 12. Okay, it's 2 different countries. A in there. Greece and Rome had powerful influence over Israel in which ways? So again, you see the S here. This is plural. Good practice for your test. Don't tell me just one way. Give me a few. Okay. Stretch. I like the way that looks. No problem. Last question for this page. I'm only going to give you 2. 13, the Bible went beyond or did more than cultural influence and then what? So you add the second thing connected to the cultural influence as I stretch this sentence. Okay. So I'll give you a few. That's the only two I have for this page. Okay, I'm going to go for the eraser. We're hitting the stretch run here. Oopsie. Okay. So again, repeating, Greece and Rome had powerful influence over Israel in which ways? Give me a few, not just one. 13, the Bible went beyond cultural influence and etc. Okay. Okay. Back to the new share. Back to the material. This God in grief is the bottom of 7. Let me turn to 8, and it's a little more than a half a page. That's it. So this is the last one for today. Yay. Will not be a full page. Oh, sorry. I didn't move it. Here it is. But still, it's a half page. Okay. Written in 3 languages. Perhaps the biggest indicator of the cross-cultural nature of the Bible is that the biblical writers used 3 languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Most of the Old Testament was written in Hebrew because Jewish people were in primary audience. However, a portion of Daniel is written in Aramaic, the language of the Assyrians and Babylonians who had conquered Israel. The book of Daniel was written for the people of Israel who were in captivity in Babylon. The New Testament is written in Greek, the language that had been used for trade since the time of Alexander the Great, similar to the way English is used today. Many people were bilingual. They spoke their native tongues but used Greek to trade and communicate with others. Using Greek as the language for the New Testament meant that many cultures could be reached simultaneously. So again, like maybe a country in China, you have 50-something ethnic groups. They all speak their own language, but everybody communicates in Mandarin. And the last paragraph for the day, concerning a cross-cultural Bible. It's clear as one goes through this list that the Bible is a cross-cultural book. There must have been a reason for God to have used such variety within the writing. He could have waited until the 2nd century and directed one person to write everything down in a single language. But its diverse nature suggests that the Bible is designed to reach all groups and time periods, and that God cares about all cultures, especially yours. Okay? Now let me move on to the last questions for the day. I'm sure you're all happy we're getting towards the end now. Yay, everybody's screaming and yelling. We love it. You can go to Starbucks now. Hey, let me get the last pencil for today. Question 14. What were the languages that the Bible was written in? Okay. So again, my funny guys, don't say, "Oh, teacher, it was Mongolian, Korean, and Chinese." Or my other corner over there with the Caroline and Pamela. Oh, it was a Tagalog and Indonesian and a little bit of orangutan. No. Okay, let's stretch this. Okay. 15. Unfortunately, it's a half a page, but I'm gonna ask. Should I maybe cut it down to 2? But I have 3 questions. Let me see. Let me look at this. I'm gonna write it correctly. Okay. Oops, I want all caps. Oops. Yeah. Okay, I'm fine. It wants to do caps, see? No, it doesn't. Look at that. Bad. What did using Greek as the language of the New Testament mean? What is the meaning of that? What did it accomplish? Or what did it assist? Let me try to stretch this. I guess I have time for one more question. I know you love it. You want me to do 5 more, but I'll only do 1 more. This looks okay. Okay, we mark those 2 down. Yeah, this is a good question too. Gotta put it out there. Gotta do it. Probably be on the test, midterm, which is next week, right? 16 states, because of its diverse nature, the Bible suggests what? Well, let me stretch that out. What does it suggest? Can I make this a one-liner? Oh, I did it. All right, so let me give you a few to write those down. Make my markings. And that would bring us to the end of page 8 for my 2 Taiwanese ladies. All right, let me get the eraser. Where is it? Where's my arrow? Chung, 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 there it is. Okay, repeating 14, what were the languages that the Bible was written in? Again, not Korean, Mongolian, and Chinese. 15, what did using Greek as the language of the New Testament mean? So this accomplished something, this meant something. So you can find the meaning there. 16, and the final question for week 1 of fall 2020, School of the East. Because of its diverse nature, the Bible suggests what. Okay. So that wraps it up for our first week. Everybody take care. Stay cool. And I shall see you guys next week. Okay? Thank you much. Bye-bye.